Hi there and welcome to The Daily Gardener, and thank you for listening. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling, and today is March 17th. I have to wish my honey a happy birthday, and I just want to say, can you believe that we are just 3 days away from the first day of spring? And it is such a delight to hit this major milestone. And I hope that wherever you are, that your weather is cooperating with you. I know yesterday we got a little bit of snow up here at the cabin, but it wasn't bad. We could still see grass poking through. And after about 4 hours after the snow had stopped, it had already started melting. The streets were not covered. And by supper time, we could see the grass again on the lawn. So we're making progress. We're trending in the right direction. All right, here's today's show. Today we celebrate a man who revealed the medicinal properties of digitalis, or foxglove. We'll also learn about an English author and gardener who wrote about the gardens of her life, and she turns 88 years old today. We'll hear an excerpt about a scientist, explorer, naturalist, and outcast who became one of New Zealand's great adventurers. And we grow that garden library today with a book about high-end garden design. And finally, we'll wrap things up with a story about the man who revived the town, landscapes, and gardens of colonial Williamsburg. But first, it's time for today's curated news. Today's curated news comes to us from House and Garden, and the title of this article is How to Decorate for Spring. And they say, spring is here, which means it's time to open the windows, let the sunshine in, and think about decorating schemes to maximize light and color. Now, I have talked to so many gardeners who are scrambling this week to put away their Christmas decorations. And you know, the house can look a little drab after you put away your Christmas decorations. And so decorating for spring is a wonderful pick-me-up. Now, this Friday in the newsletter, I'm actually sharing how I redecorated my front porch for spring. And I have to tell you this little story about how I did it. And I will be sharing this in the Friday newsletter. So if you want to subscribe to that, you can do that over at my website at thedailygardener.org. But in the meantime, let me give you a little bit of a Cliff Notes, a little behind the scenes here, so that if you do see those pictures, you'll be able to better relate to what I'm about to tell you. Anyway, as you might know from last week's newsletter, I deconstructed all of my outdoor containers that were filled with beautiful holiday greens. It was definitely time to get that all cleaned up. Now, I took the live stems that I used in all of my containers, and I kept those, and I put those in a spot in my garden where they will be used as mulch later on this spring. But when all of the containers were cleared off, I had so much fun filling up my containers with all kinds of permanent stems. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, well, why is she using permanent stems? Why isn't she decorating with real flowers? Well, believe me, I would if I could. But in Minnesota, in Zone 4A, where I live, there is absolutely no way that I would put a living plant outside in a container until after Memorial Day, just to be on the safe side. I've been burned too many times. And so instead, I add color and spring freshness to my porch using permanent stems. And this year, I actually used some gorgeous, tall amaryllis blossoms that I had gotten on a Christmas clearance from a high-end garden center here in Minnesota. And they really added height, drama, and color, spring vibrancy to my containers. And then I was able to fill in with other wonderful little things like forsythia and spring grass and pussy willows and little nests, and of course, some grapevine. And if you'd like to see pictures of my creations, you can do that again in the newsletter for the show. But I tell you what, you know that you have put together a beautiful porch, beautiful containers when anyone who comes to your front door stops to take a picture of them. And this is what's been happening to us all week here up at the cabin. So my son had DoorDashed some lunch over the weekend, and I heard him talking to someone when he had run into the garage to get the food. And so when he came in, he said, yeah, there's this woman out there, the lady that delivered our food, and she is taking pictures of the porch and the containers. Well, you guys know I'm a talker, so I had to run out the front door with my mask on, of course, and then talk to her all about my containers and what she's doing in her garden. And it was just so fun, but it was also so validating and so lovely to have someone admire the work that I'd put in to my porch, which is one of my favorite places to be up here at the cabin. So in any case, this wonderful article from House and Garden, let me come full circle here, is a true inspiration. I thought all of the images were absolutely lovely. There's all kinds of ideas in here, beautiful, jaw-dropping photos. And if you're just looking for inspiration, for ideas, for ways to bring botanicals into your home and style with florals or elements from nature, this post from House and Garden is just the ticket. And if you're in the Facebook group for the show, when you're in the group, all you need to do is search for the word spring, and this post will pop up. Now, if you're not in the Facebook group, don't worry about it. It is so easy to join. All you need to do the next time you're on Facebook is type in the words Daily Gardener Community, where you'd search for a friend, and then request to join. I'd love to meet you in the group. Which reminds me, before we talk about today's curated news, I want to take a second and welcome new members to our group because, of course, I forgot to do this last week, and so I want to get caught up. So let me please take a few seconds and welcome our new members into the Facebook group. Welcome to Annie Slocum, Marcy Hogard, Martin Fernandez, Lori Berkman, Sandy Soderberg, Daryl Clatterbuck, Christine Labor, Edrin Tuff, Bonnie Stimson, Rich Razanek, Charity Miller, Yvonne D'Amico, Victoria Simpson, and Alexandra McPhail. That's group one. And then group two is Julie Burrows, Andrea Janelle, Amy Grotland, Ayla Smith, Amy Fink, Lynn Fiorentino, Kelsey Hatlevig, Lori Hooden, Sharon Turwelp, Emily Stojak, Ann Key Hayes, Marty Dangerfield, Anita Neufeld, Jeannie Altman, Claire Skeen, Krista Herring, Heather Rankovic, Deb Claypool, Michelle Smiley, and last but not least, Doug Justice. Welcome, you guys. Welcome you all to the group. And I hope that you find the group helpful. I do put a lot of gardening posts in the group throughout the week, but I also think that you will find the community to be welcoming and a safe place to share. It is a private group. It is a free group. And when you join the group, make sure to let us know where you're gardening and tell us a little bit about yourself and your garden. And if you're not on Facebook, don't worry about it. You can always join at any time. You have a standing invitation to join us at the Daily Gardener Community on Facebook. It's time for today's botanical history. Here's today's botanical history for March 17th. Today is the birthday of the English botanist, geologist, physician, and chemist William Withering, who was born on this day, March 17th, in 1741. William became the very first person to study the bioactivity of the flower known as digitalis, or foxglove. In this respect, William's training as a physician served him well. And the story goes that one day he noticed a person suffering from what was then called dropsy, which is an old word for a person who's suffering from congestive heart failure. Now, in this particular case, William observed that the patient in question showed remarkable improvement after taking a traditional herbal remedy that included digitalis or foxglove. Now, William gets the credit because he took this old herbal remedy and he studied the various ingredients, and he determined that it really was the digitalis that made all the difference when it came to heart issues. And in 1785, William published his famous work called An Account of the Foxglove and some of its medical uses. Now, foxgloves are a beautiful plant for the ornamental or cottage garden. These are plants that produce beautiful, tall flower spikes, and each spike can contain 20 to 80 purple to pink flowers that are tubular and are whitish on the inside. Now, foxgloves are a toxic plant, and if you eat any part of the plant, it can result in severe poisoning. And this is important to know because when foxglove first emerges out of the ground, it can be confused for comfrey or plantain, and both of those plants are used as edible plants by many people. So it's important to be able to distinguish them and also to remember where you're planting foxglove in your garden. And the fact that the foxglove plant so closely resembles a plantain when it first comes out of the ground is a helpful way for gardeners to remember that foxglove is in the plantain family. Now, in addition to the common name foxgloves, digitalis has many adorable common names, including fairy fingers, fairy thimbles, rabbit's flower, and Scotch mercury. And there's a delightful old legend about the foxglove, and it goes like this, that bad fairies gave the blossoms to a fox who needed to put the flowers on his toes so that he could muffle the sound of his feet as he hunted for prey. And here's another fun fact about the foxglove. It's a cousin to another beloved cottage garden flower, the snapdragon. Now, with regard to its toxicity, which is a very legitimate concern, the gardener and garden writer Catherine S. White wrote this. At a very early age, I remember I was to recognize what plants are to be avoided completely. At a very early age, I remember I was taught how to recognize and stay away from deadly nightshade, poison ivy, and poison sumac. I was, just as early, taught the delights of chewing tender young checkerberry leaves and sassafras root. To me, it would be ridiculous, though, not to grow monkshood, foxglove, hellebore, larkspur, autumn crocus, poppies, lily of the valley, buttercups, and many other flowers now present in my borders, just because they have some poison in them. So as you can see, the foxglove is in good company when it comes to toxic plants. Now, when the botanical illustrator Walter Crane painted flowers, he often personified them. And when he drew the foxglove, he did not draw it alone. He drew a foxglove family. And he wrote, "The foxgloves are a happy group, comprised of cousins and brothers and sisters." And finally, the English author and poet Meta Orid wrote about the foxglove in this verse. Her lips like foxgloves, pink and pale, went sighing like an autumn gale. Yet when the sunlight passed by, they opened out with half a sigh. Her smile, the last vesper light, as swoons the eve to sleep away, remaining through the summer night, a lamp of love by which to pray. And today is the birthday of the great British writer of fiction for both children and adults, Dame Penelope Margaret Lively, who was born on this day, March 17th in 1933. So that makes her 88 years young today. Happy birthday, Penelope. Penelope wrote one of my favorite garden books. It's called Life in the Garden. And I found myself enthralled with this book from the very first chapter. And if you don't own a copy, you will love it, not only for what's written on the inside, but the beautiful botanical cover on the outside. Penelope's writing often reflects on common themes like life and memory and time. And in this book in particular, she writes about one of her passions, gardening. Penelope had the unique experience of growing up in a home in Cairo, Egypt, where she experienced the joy and wonder of a courtyard garden. And then she moved to a family cottage in Somerset. And as an adult, her own gardens flourished in Oxford and London. Now, as someone who loves botanical history and literature, what I especially appreciate about Penelope's book is that she not only shares her own garden experience, but she takes us on a garden tour. We get to experience great gardens like Sissinghurst, and we also get to learn a little bit about creative people who also love to garden, like Virginia Woolf and Philip Larkin. And it was Penelope Lively who said one of my all-time favorite garden quotes, and she uses the word elide, which means to suppress or strike out. She said, "To garden is to elide past, present, and future. It is a defiance of time." It's time for Unearthed Words. Today's Unearthed Words come to us from Tom Conroy from his book, The Naturalist, which is a fascinating novel that's based on the real life of Dr. Ernst Dieffenbach. It's where we get the word Dieffenbachia, a wonderful houseplant that I became familiar with in my childhood in the 1970s. In any case, Dr. Dieffenbach was not only a scientist and an explorer, but a revolutionary and an outcast. And this excerpt is from his section on New Zealand. As his former friend made his way down the street, Ernst was reminded of a line out of Darwin's researches. Writing of the climber's expectation in the ascent of a mountain, Darwin had said that the promise lay with the projection of the climber, and that what was withheld would always outstrip what was granted. What was withheld would always outstrip what was granted. What was granted, Ernst reflected, was life, the ordinary business of it, the illnesses and the sunny days, the delivery at the kitchen door, the sound of rain upon the bedroom glass. What was withheld was the sense behind the living, the dream that never ceased, and of course, the end of the arrow's flight. And watching Klaus make his way along the footpath, Ernst saw what a blessing this withholding was, too. For who would continue with the project of living if they could see straight to its end? It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, Garden Design Review by Ralph Knoflach and Robert Sheffer. This book came out in 2018, and the subtitle is Best Designed Gardens and Parks on the Planet. Here's what the publisher wrote about this book. Discover the greatest in garden design. Garden Design Review is the inaugural edition of an exclusive new compendium of the most outstanding projects and products in garden planning and landscape architecture around the world. A garden not only extends living space outdoors, it also enhances the quality of life. This illustrated garden book presents more than 50 contemporary garden projects from some of the most internationally renowned landscape architects and garden designers. Now, the featured gardens are profiled with beautiful photographs and interviews with the garden designers and the landscape architects, and they share their work process in detail. They include the concept for the property, the materials that they used, and their plant choices. So this book makes for a wonderful behind-the-scenes tutorial. This book is 256 pages of an indispensable garden guide for professional garden designers and landscape architects, as well as home gardeners looking for luxury inspiration. You can get a copy of Garden Design Review and support the show using the Amazon link in today's show notes for around $62. Finally, here's something sweet to revive the little botanic spark in your heart. It was on this day, March 17th, in 1928, that the pioneering landscape architect Arthur Shercliffe began working on the Colonial Revival Gardens that ended up making Colonial Williamsburg a world-famous attraction. Now, just after he received his degree in mechanical engineering from MIT, Arthur discovered the field of landscape architecture, and he couldn't let it go. Now, back when Arthur was in school, there were no formal degree programs for landscape architecture, and so Arthur ended up cobbling together his own curriculum at the Lawrence School of Science at Harvard. Now, the massive project at Williamsburg was funded by John D. Rockefeller, and Arthur's mission was staggering: a total community restoration. And by the time that Arthur took over the project, on this day, St. Patrick's Day, in 1928, he already had over 30 years' experience in the field. Of course, it wasn't just the buildings that needed restoration. It was the land, the paths, the street, the gardens, and the green spaces. And Arthur kept detailed notes about the transformation and his daily quest to uncover the past. And one of my favorite diary entries from Arthur about this project said, "Wednesday morning saw me in the old-fashioned gardens in the heart of town. These old places, now gone to decay, are filled with a kind of golden glory, which is lacking in the new gardens. The old lattice trellises, ruined box hedges, and even the weed-grown paths seem to have the glamour of the sunshine from the olden days." Now, thanks to Arthur, every aspect of the town of Williamsburg was fully researched. And when it came to garden plans and plant selection, Arthur insisted that authenticity was paramount. For example, Arthur's team actually searched for original fence post holes to determine the colonially accurate backyard. And in light of little details like that, it's no wonder that it took Arthur 13 years to finish the restoration of Williamsburg. In researching Arthur, it's clear that every now and then his passion could get the best of him. There's a funny story that I love to tell with regard to Arthur's experience in Williamsburg. There was a woman in Williamsburg who lived at the St. George Tucker House, and she kept her own diary, and she wrote this in January of 1931. Today I was asked to go over the yard with Mr. Arthur Shercliffe. I found him a very alarming person. Somehow, the idea of changing the yard and garden is much more repellent to me than changing the house. And this is such a terribly enthusiastic man. And when Arthur returned in May, she wrote, "He came down like a wolf on the fold again today. He rushed in and out with charts and plans for all sorts of alarming landscapes in our yard. He has boxwood on the brain." And you know, she was right, because Arthur's signature plant was the boxwood, which he called box for short. And for his Williamsburg makeover, Arthur required boatloads of box. He wrote, "In replanting Williamsburg places, much use should be made of box, even allowing it to dominate the parterres and the bed traceries. Generous use of box in this manner will define the display and help with the upkeep of flowers, especially in the dry season." Happily for Arthur, over the course of his time in Williamsburg, his charm eventually counteracted any hesitance caused by his exuberance. When colonial Williamsburg was revealed to the public in 1934, Arthur's colonial revival style gardens, complete with boxwood, caused a sensation. Soon, revival garden design appeared in suburbs all across America. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day. Hey, thanks for spending part of your day with The Daily Gardener. If you want to read even more botanical brevities, just head on over to thedailygardener.org. That's where you can find all the stories, biographies, and books that I share on the show. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for my free Friday newsletter. It has lots of goodies in it, and I try to make the newsletter like you're getting a marvelous letter from a garden friend. You can always find The Daily Gardener on all your favorite social media. You can follow the show on Twitter, and you have a standing invitation to join the free Facebook group for listeners of the show. Just search for Daily Gardener Community the next time you're on Facebook and request to join. Last but not least, you can easily share your gardener greetings or book submissions by emailing me at jennifer@thedailygardener.org. The Daily Gardener is produced in lovely Maple Grove in Wyoming, Minnesota, with the help of Paige Mance, Brooke Bierbaum, and Eric Begay. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling, and as always, have a great day in the garden, and we'll see you tomorrow.